Tears of the Kingdom's ending sucks. It's so bad, it retroactively ruins the rest of the story. Today we will explore why that is and what could have been done to fix it. If you find this subject matter interesting, subscribe to the channel. It will help to keep our research effort going. This scene is great. And this scene is great. They are both great. In a vacuum. However, with the added context of, you know, all the rest of the story, things get iffy. This shouldn't have happened, is what I'm getting at. At least not with how the story is right now. But before I can explain why, I first need to talk about a few things. So, if you'll indulge me. When you build a magic system, it will always fall into one of the three categories. It can be a soft magic system, a hard magic system, or somewhere between the two. If you'd like to do some research on your own, these categories have been created by Sanderson. He is a well-respected fantasy author, known for his world-building skills. For our purposes, it's enough to know that soft systems are ones without an established set of rules. Hence the name. They are soft as in malleable. The reader has no idea what magic can and cannot do, meaning it is entirely up to the writer. Hard systems are the opposite of that. They have a set of rigid rules they adhere to, and those rules are known to the reader. The writer works within the confines of those established rules. And then there are systems which don't fall into either category. These have some rules to them, but they may be more like suggestions than strict guidelines, or they may be incomplete, or something along those lines. In systems like that, there is some wiggle room left for the writer. Each type of a magic system has its strengths and weaknesses. There isn't a single best kind. The choice of one over another depends on the story it serves. What is important is that one of the options is picked and committed to. Which brings me back to the topic at hand. In Tears, draconification has been presented as a magical process with a hard rule set. It was kept that way for the entire run of the game. Until it wasn't. This is a problem, because it constitutes a betrayal of expectations. This scene is only as effective as it is at giving us the emotional gut punch because draconification has been built up to be an irreversible process. So, for everyone who cared about Zelda's fate, and Tears tries very hard to make you care, this has been a point she has been lost. By the established rules, there was no going back from this. At least, until the writers broke those rules without narratively opening the door for it first, thus robbing us of our emotional investment and retroactively stripping any meaning Zelda's sacrifice carried. It looks a lot like the writers wanted to have their cake and eat it too, but for whatever reason weren't able to create a narrative that would allow them to do that. They wanted to have an emotional twist. So they built up the draconification as a grand act of sacrifice. They also wanted the narrative to go full circle for Link, to start with him failing to catch Zelda and end with him grabbing her hand. But these ideas don't connect without extra work. Imagine if it was clear from the start that draconification is totally reversible and Zelda is just going to be asleep the entire time. Her sacrifice wouldn't have even a fraction of the impact. It may not have even been a sacrifice in such a scenario, just a roundabout approach to time travel. There is a name for what the writers did to get the result they wanted when they wanted it. It is a plot device, known as Deus Ex Machina, Latin for God from a machine. Quoting from Wikipedia, Deus Ex Machina is defined as a plot device, whereby a seemingly unsolvable problem in a story is suddenly or abruptly resolved by an unexpected and unlikely occurrence. Its function is generally to resolve an otherwise irresolvable plot situation, to surprise the audience, to bring the tale to a happy ending, or act as a comedic device. In other words, Deus Ex Machina is rather often used as a cheat code, a get-out-of-jail-free card for writers who find they wrote themselves into a corner. By using it, a writer can force the narrative in a direction they want. There was no reason Raru and Sonia should be able to do anything to help Zelda, and let alone from beyond the grave. Neither of them even knew draconification existed before Mineru told them. How would they know that they can reverse it? Yet they inexplicably do, because the writers needed them to. They hadn't set up a way to bring Zelda back beforehand, so the best they could do to achieve it during the ending was a Zelda version of "A wizard did it!" As a result, both the final catch and Zelda's sacrifice were cheapened. Why should we care about anything that happens if the goddamn Zonai can fix every problem at a flick of the finger? Such use of Deus Ex Machina makes the ending feel unearned and detached from the game as a whole. Turning Zelda back has nothing to do with Link's actions after all. It doesn't matter if he collected all the memories or not. It doesn't matter if Ganondorf's puppet has been exposed. Zelda will always be turned back, because her fate isn't tied to Link's actions. It's tied to Zonai Force Ghosts, and whatever they deem an appropriate time to step in and help. This issue is made even worse by the primacy and recency effect. See, we are wired to remember beginnings and endings of stories the best, which means that a bad ending contained everything that came beforehand. And sure enough, it did that for me. I was very invested in this story. I liked Zelda in Breath already, so I very much cared about her fate. Her being turned back in such a way after Impa's research on the matter led nowhere was such a slap in the face. Here I was, taking in the somber moment of Dragondorf's defeat, only to be whisked away to the spirit realm and then promptly thrust into, admittedly, an amazing final scene. Unfortunately, with time, that icky feeling Rauru and Sonia's intervention gave me overtook everything else I felt about this story while playing it. Now I struggle to care about anything that happened with this plot. As painful as it would have been, with the narrative laid out the way it is now, Zelda should have stayed as a dragon. But I promised you to explain how this ending could be fixed. The answer is proper setup and payoff. This requires more work than summoning Zonai Force Ghosts to fix everything, but you know what? It's worth it. First of all, Zelda turning back should have never been the default ending. No. Forget the very random goodbye to Mineru and kinda cringe new Sage Vow scene. This is the true ending material. If you followed the story, this is the scene you wish to see. This is the scene that matters. And no Force Ghosts? We don't approve of the Force Ghost labor in this layer. The default ending would see Zelda remain as a dragon. If you finish the game without meeting specific requirements to unlock the true ending, the scene you get will see Zelda drop Link off somewhere safe, perhaps by the Temple of Time, and fly off into the sunset, while Link gives a long, solemn look after her. End credits. Some of the groundwork for this new true ending is already in the game. See, if you collect all Dragon Tears and then go back to the Forgotten Temple, you can meet Impa there. Link will then tell her what he found. Upon hearing this news, Impa refuses to give up and tells Link that she will make her way back to Kakariko. She wants to look through her books, to try finding something that could help. This is all already in the game, but unfortunately goes nowhere. Impa is stuck forever, her nose dug into the documents, and the whole plotline ends there. Let's fix that. So, if Link follows her to Kakariko immediately, she will give him the response he has now. She's still looking. But then, if, say, at least one day passes and all sages have been unlocked, she will have a new quest instead. She will tell Link that she found an old legend from a time long after the imprisoning war, which is important, otherwise Mineru being clueless will become a plot hole in itself and we don't want that. According to the legend, someone was able to transform an ancient dragon into a humanoid. What kind of humanoid it is, it doesn't matter. It could be a Zonai or some other race, like the weird lizard people from the statues in the depths. Doesn't matter either way. The legend then continues, but that first bit is the important part. It is possible to undo draconification, and the legend suggests the power to do that should still be housed in a long-lost city. So Link sets out to find it, armed with nothing but a handful of clues and a riddle. Turns out, it is a ruin that has long sunk into the depths. It is currently found, say, underneath Gliok Nest or Bloopy Burrow. The way to reach it is closed off with a puzzle, unsolvable without clues from Impa. But now that Link has them, he can open up the door and descend into a cavern. The Lost City would be a secret dungeon. After completing it, Link would find a key item, which gets added to his arm. Unfortunately, the power turns out to be dormant. According to Mineru, it could only be used once. After the ancient dragon was turned back, the power the item had has been expended. Now, the only way to charge and use it again is by absorbing the life essence of a dying dragon, which is a limitation that is there to tie Zelda's return to the victory against Dragondorf. And there! Done! Now Zelda's return is set up and earned, it's not random and it is a true ending, requiring the player to gather all memories and sages. It could be made even better with some extra foreshadowing, like, say, showing the ancient dragon Impa's legend is about in the memory cutscenes. I don't mean characters pointing to it and talking about it, just have it somewhere in the back, briefly. That kind of subtle foreshadowing wouldn't require too much effort, but it would bring the story together rather nicely. And personally, I wouldn't mind if, even in the true ending, Zelda's sacrifice still meant something. As in, she has been turned back, but something intangible has still been lost through the process. Like in The Last Unicorn. And there you have it. That's why the ending of Tears is bad and how I would fix it. You can tell me why I'm wrong in the comments. And a huge thank you to my Draconic Sages, Jardint, Fonbob, Fiona, Gigachikni, Merburb and Lothar T. Destroy. Thank you for listening, and good night.